Hi, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of F8. To kick us off, we're going to start with how to bring Instagram's community and creativity to your site.
Hello, everyone. My name's Piyush Mangalik, and together with a group of global partner engineers, we maintain the Instagram platform and developer partnerships. I'm excited to be here today. It looks like it's a good crowd. I was wondering, coming back from lunch, if people would still be out there. I'm excited to be here because I've been with Facebook for 5 years, and the first 3 of those were spent working on the Facebook platform. And when we acquired Instagram, went over to talk to them a little bit about what they thought of their platform, and they said, well, we have some APIs, we know people develop on it, but we could really use some help. You don't get too many opportunities to go from like what I would call one rocket ship to another rocket ship. And I didn't even know how fast that rocket was going to be going. So I think it's an honor for the last 2 years that I've been able to work on the Instagram platform. And one thing I've found is that there's a real distinct difference between the Facebook platform and the Instagram platform, and that's community. It's the people that are on Instagram. And just talking to people throughout who are saying, oh my God, I love Instagram, and the passion that they feel for it, that's something that I want to make sure that you as developers understand. So when you're building your apps, you account for that. So I'm going to go through a little bit the history of Instagram, our culture, and core values. Those are the 3 most important things, I think, for you to understand when you're building your apps. We'll obviously go through APIs, some security, rate limits, and then I'm going to show you some examples of what some brands and businesses are actually doing with Instagram and how it's actually affecting their business in a positive way. We'll have time for Q&A. Well, hopefully we'll have time for Q&A. If we don't, we're in the dev garage. I'll be over there to answer any questions as well. So Instagram. Instagram started in October of 2010. And when they came onto Facebook and joined the Facebook family, I think I started in about 2013 at the beginning. They were already at 100 million members actively using the site every month. In the beginning of 2014, they hit 200 million monthly active members. And at the end of 2014, just in December, we announced it at 300 million. So the question is, how is this growing so fast? What is it about Instagram that keeps people coming back? And what are they doing? Well, to date, there are over 30 billion photos that have been shared on Instagram. And every day, 70 million photos are shared, and 2.5 billion likes happen. That's a lot of inspiration. That's a lot of moments that are being captured. And for you as developers, that's really great, for you to find the content that can inspire others. So what are they doing? What is community? I think the best is a story that I have when I first joined. I was out in New York with a couple of community managers. So we have a role called community managers. In fact, the first 9 people that were hired onto Instagram, 3 of them were community managers. That's how important community was. So we were out in New York, we were getting ready for some meetings, and I remember talking to a couple of the people and I said, okay, why don't we meet here in the morning, we'll go to the meeting. And they said, well, we're going to be busy doing something in the morning. If you want to come with us, great. And I thought they were going to go out with friends. They said it was at 6 a.m. I'm not a morning person. So I said, okay, I'll pass, I'll meet you at the meeting. And later on, what I found out is they had met up with a community member who was a nurse. Her shift started at 6:30 a.m., but she really wanted to meet with Instagrammers, and she wanted to go on an Insta walk, go through the city, take beautiful pictures. And so our community managers got up, met her at 6 a.m., and ran through the city with her taking pictures. When I found that out, I was like, okay, this is different. This is what community is. And that community now has grown where we have a global set of community managers that are going around understanding what community means in different countries, different states, and learning from them as well as sharing what is Instagram. The second core value we have is simplicity matters. This is important both from a product standpoint and then also just what I would call authenticity. The moments that are shared are they authentic? And simplicity sometimes conveys authenticity. So from a product standpoint, we say do the simplest things first. And from when Instagram started, it's still 3 clicks, right, to capture and share the moments. And that has held through to today. It's interesting, if you think about Simplicity Matters and how actually Instagram evolved out of an app called Bourbon. And Bourbon was an app that was a location-based kind of check-in and meetup app. And one of the things you could do is you could take pictures and you could share them. And when our co-founders, Mike Krieger and Kevin Systrom, took a look at how it was being used, they saw people weren't really checking in, but they were sharing a ton of photos. And they were sharing some photos, they were trying to tag them where they were. And so they took a step back and they said, you know what, let's do the simplest things first. Let's create an app that just does photo sharing really, really well. And that's how Instagram was started. And the next thing they wanted to do was add creativity or let people be creative. And so what they did is they added some filters. And that's how Instagram was born. That's how it grew. And it really goes into inspiring creativity. And that doesn't mean that you have to doctor up your photos, use all the filters, or tweak it too much. It really means, how do you tell your story the way that you saw it? And it doesn't matter what camera you're using, a DSLR, you're using your mobile phone. It's just, how do you tell a story of what you saw? That creativity that's inspired, that's what I want you to do, is take those moments, find out what's inspirational for your own community, whether it's on Instagram or off Instagram, and bring it to your site to create action. So with these 3 core principles, we're going to go into the developer platform. So the first thing is our mission. So we talk about community first as being an Instagram principle. It's also one of the platform. And so our mission is to enable our community to easily and safely share their moments beyond our apps. And that could come through things that we do on our apps that let them share, but a lot of it comes through our developer community and what they're actually enabling our community members to do, to take their moments and share them in places outside of our app. So to become a developer, very easy. Actually, how many people are already developers here? Awesome, great. Just go to instagram.com/developers. If you're, well, you have to be an Instagrammer. Go sign up. It takes probably 10 seconds. And once you do, you can start creating apps. From there, the platform is very similar to, let's call it the Facebook platform, other platforms, in it being a REST-based platform, and we have embeds, rate limits, etc. I'm not going to go through all of the APIs, but I will go through some of the most popular ones, and later on tell you how you kind of string those together to find your community. So these are the most popular endpoints that we have: user endpoint, hashtag, location, and popular. How do they go together? Well, how do you know which user to follow? How do you know what hashtag to actually use? How do you know what location to pick up on? If you're in the news media publishing, you might want to go and use the popular, kind of see what's trending, and then maybe dig into that, see what other stuff's coming from that location. That's where you would use location. For users, you might want to start with a hashtag. Like, what hashtags are trending? What hashtags actually represent our brand? And who are the people? Once you find the people, you start following those people and seeing what else they're doing. What's their passion? Do you want to reach out to them? Have a conversation. Why do they love your brand, your product so much? So with any platform, we have rate limits. And what I have here is more of the right limits, which is likes, follows, and comments. But at the highest level, there's 5,000 requests that you can do per hour per client ID or access token. And access tokens, as developers here know, are granted to you when you prompt someone who's visiting your site to actually authenticate with you, give them the ability to like, follow, or just pull your moments. So that's 5,000 at the highest level, and that's reads and writes. Now what you can see here is we've got 5,000, but the writes are really low. We did a lot of analysis on this to say, how many writes do people need in order to be effective with what they're doing? These are the numbers we came out. And as a platform, I can only tell you that while we're always trying to put out tools and technology for the good developers, there's always developers out there that are a little bit spammy and malicious, and that's why we had to set these. But it shouldn't prohibit you from doing anything that you need to do. We have signed and unsigned limits, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in security, but the signed ones are basically you authenticating who you are. So there are problems sometimes with impersonation, where another developer might be able to take your ID, impersonate who you are, grab access tokens, and start going against your rate limits. You don't want that. It's not good. It's confusing for the community. And so later on, I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but that's what it means by unsigned and signed requests. One way to alleviate kind of burning through your rate limits is by using a real-time API. So the real-time API will ping you if you subscribe to users, hashtags, or a location. It will ping you when some new content shows up. And it happens almost instantaneously. I think it happens within a second. And you could get a flurry of this, right, if there's a lot of activity in a given location, for example, something's trending. So just be ready for it. We do ask that you do respond, at least with a 200 OK, because if you don't, our systems will think that you are no longer there or you're offline, and they'll stop sending it to you. I point this out because this actually seems to happen quite a bit. As you saw before, there's 70 billion photos that are shared, and that number is growing. If you happen to subscribe to an area or a user or some hashtag that's trending, your servers might not be able to respond in time. And if they don't, we do have a back off, but it could shut off. And so just go check the real-time API, do another get on that endpoint, and make sure you're still subscribed. And if you're not, resubscribe. You can do 30 subscriptions per client. We're looking to actually open that up a little bit more. As Instagram's come over to Facebook, we've been able to enjoy the Facebook infrastructure. And because of that, we can scale more. And when we can scale more, we can give back more. So we're looking to up all of the limits that we have over time, and real-time API is one of those. So it's going to help you conserve your rate limits. And it creates a great experience, too, if you have some kind of application where you want to get the latest. Again, what we see is a lot of news media and journalists use this kind of thing. One other thing I think on the real-time API is you will have to make a second call. Like once we send back the information, we'll give you the IDs. Just make a second call to that information. And if you don't need the subscriptions, delete them. Because what happens is that people run them for a long time, and then what we say is, like, that person doesn't really need them. Should we actually up that number or not? So get rid of them if you don't need them. It helps us understand, like, what the behavior is going on in the platform, and it's a sensitive part of our infrastructure. So we talked about likes, follows, and comments a little bit. I'm going to go into them a little bit more. So Instagram is not a platform for what I would call distribution in the same way that Facebook is. Like Facebook, you post or you share something in, people click on it, they go back to your site. That's not what Instagram is, and a lot of people thought that in the beginning. So when they did likes, when they did follows, when they did comments, they all thought that this is a way to actually get distribution or engage with the community members. And it is a way to engage with the community members. It's just not a way to do it from a distribution standpoint. And I point that out because what we had is, before we had the rate limits, we had people basically liking all kinds of photos, hoping for reciprocation on their likes, trying to game the system. And it becomes confusing because from an authenticity standpoint, it's not authentic. It's not what our community wants to see. And if we don't keep the community safe, they're not going to keep coming back. And that's not good for developers. So while sometimes it looks good from a short-term perspective, it's not good for the long term. So likes and follows, just a couple guidelines. Don't try to replicate the functionality of Instagram. So people can already go on to Instagram or apps or a website and like or follow people. You don't have to do that in your own apps. But if you're a brand, if you're an entity, and you have a bunch of people behind that entity that are doing their job that need to like or follow, even comment, then you should use the like or follow for those reasons. So if you're a brand, you did a hashtag campaign, things are coming in, you want to like certain content, you should do it, and it should say liked from your brand name, which is a user on Instagram, but it's coming from a brand. It's awesome for the community. They love it. They love when companies, brands, entities like, follow, or comment on their content. So we want to encourage that. And in comments, again, very similar, like on behalf of an entity or a brand or a business, not on an individual. A couple other things is we've cut it down so that you can only do about 300 characters in your comment. We found that that's more than enough to start in communicating and engaging with your community. You can do multiple comments. It's just you don't have to write like a novel within your comment in order to get things started. And the reason is if you think about that community member who you're reaching out to, what their display looks like, you take it over. And that's not what they want. That's not what their followers want either. So understand why you're reaching out to them. Start a conversation. Then you can take it offline if you want, or keep it within Instagram. Just keep it under 300 characters. Hashtags. Obviously, hashtags are really popular. I've seen people use 10, 20 hashtags in their comments. I think it's awesome. From an API standpoint, we suggest that you only use 4 or less. Again, from what we've seen talking to various developers, that seems to be plenty. It seemed like it was about 2.2 hashtags that were usually the area, so we said, well, let's give a little bit more, give some room for growth. If the developer community feels like that's not enough, we'd love to hear about it, and then we'll look to raise those as well. And then URLs. This is an important one. Again, from a distribution standpoint, people post in URLs hoping that once it's in some popular piece of content, people are going to click and go back to their site. The thing is, on Instagram, as you guys might already know, you can't click on anything in Instagram. If a URL shows up, you can't click on it. It's not going to take you anywhere. On our mobile apps, you can't even cut and paste the URL. And this was a principle, not to stop that, it was just a principle that was created with Instagram, that Instagram should be a place where you look through moments, you would read some comments, you do some lightweight actions, but you stay within those moments. And that's worked well, so we want to keep it that way. On the web, you can cut and paste, but obviously most of the usage happens on mobile. So if you're going to put a URL in, put something in that people are going to understand or be able to remember, so if they have to switch to a web browser, they're able to put it in easily. So the last thing that, and this is probably the most common question that we get, is how do I post moments into Instagram? So you let me like, you let me follow and comment, but I want to post into it. So we don't have an API for that, and we purposely haven't done that. What we did do, because most of our community are mobile, is we've created iOS hooks and Android shared intents so that you can post content into Instagram. And it's a good experience. One of the issues with the API was the fact that you can't have the filters. We didn't allow you to have filters. It was too hard to actually get those out. And so we said, well, why don't we just let people have their own creativity? So what we did is we said, fine, you go ahead, capture the images you want with your own camera. Create filters of your own. Inspire creativity in your app. And when you're ready, hit the Share to Instagram button. It'll fast app switch to the Instagram app where people are already logged in, and it will drop you right into this screen, which is the same screen as if someone had taken it from their camera roll or taken an image from the camera itself. At that point, your user can now actually use a filter if they want, or just skip to the next, tag people, alter the caption that they have, and continue, and they're done. So these are the ways that we see the sharing. If you've ever used the Nike running app, I think they've done a good job with this. So you can take snapshots while you're running within their app. You can do a few. There's neat layouts that they've created. You can add a caption, and you hit one button, it shares to Instagram. It switches over, it posts it. And from that, they were able to find a massive community of runners, which obviously there are, on Instagram. And then those runners get together as well. So they find out where they're running, they get together. This is how you find your community. This is how you inspire them. This is how you can share back on Instagram. So we're going to go into security a little bit now. I talked about signed and unsigned requests. The other thing that we have are the way to disable client OAuth. So we've seen impersonation happen mostly on mobile apps. And the reason is because in client OAuth, as some of you guys might know, when someone authenticates with your app, we send back the token in a fragment in the URL. On mobile, that can kind of be intercepted. Now, the developer has to actually do a bunch of stuff to impersonate you. They have to inject a lot of JS in order to change the dialogues and stuff, and we're working to kind of get rid of that. But if you're not using client OAuth, turn it off. Like, if you're a developer that's doing server-side stuff, if you're working at a company, at a brand, and you're doing stuff, just turn it off. Now, no one can impersonate you. They don't have the credentials that they need in order for someone to go and authenticate against your app, and now they're not going to burn through your rate limit. And this now, the second thing is enforcing signed headers. So we give you a secret key when you sign up. When you post, you should sign those requests. And when you flip a switch that says, I'm going to sign all my requests, if someone happens to get your ID and get access tokens on your behalf, when they try to post anything, it's just going to fail. It's going to do nothing. They're going to stop doing it. They're going to move on. So if you can, we highly encourage it. And some of the benefits are you're going to get higher rate limits. Right now, the reads stay the same, but we're looking to increase that as well. So this brings us to really how do you use all these tools, right? How do you find your community? How do you decide what's the right content? And how do you display for impact? So finding your community. I talked about this a little bit with the hashtags and then following the users. So I think what most people do, brands, businesses, is they actually put a call to action saying, here's a unique hashtag that represents us or represents something that we're trying to do, and use it. And the great thing is that the hashtag has just become so common that when people see it, they just use it. They know that when they take a picture, especially of that brand, that product, they will use that hashtag. And that makes it super easy for you to go and pull that endpoint that says, tell me whenever I get something from this hashtag. When you do that, now you can find out who are those people that are sharing it with me. Should I reach out to them? Should I have a conversation about what they love about our products? Because remember, these are people who saw that hashtag, have used your product, use your, what you have, and they're willing to actually post on it. That's passion. If you can reach out to them, they're always excited to hear from you. So this is a great way to find your community. An example of this, West Elm. So if you ever go to West Elm on their site, not only on their website do they have a call to action that says, see, share, and get inspired, and they put the My West Elm hashtag, they also do it on their bags. So they're putting it on their products, they're putting it on their receipts, so that people know when they get home or wherever, they're reminded, use this hashtag. And the community understands that they're not using it because West Elm's going to take it and do something with it. It's actually to find another community of people who, in this example, like West Elm, and see what they have. What are the other things that they've gotten? How do they display them? This is a great story, actually. This is Piggy and Polly. These are French bulldog sisters. And this is a community member who likes West Elm and took this picture of her bulldogs on the West Elm bed sheets and hashtagged them with my West Elm. So West Elm saw this and reached out and said, this is really awesome. Could we use it? And the owner said, yeah, absolutely. They found out then, by building a relationship with them on Instagram, that this person was near one of their stores. And from that, they brought him into the store, and they let the owner just go on a photo shoot in the store. And they posted these all back to their Instagram. And then West Elm said, hey, can we use some of these? And they're like, absolutely. This is great. They're passionate about their dogs. They're passionate about West Elm. And this stuff is authentic. It really resonates, not only with the Instagram community, but with the micro community within West Elm. So then the question is, going into that authenticity and what resonates, how do you choose what the right moments are? So obviously I put the right because maybe there's no right or wrong answer. It really depends on what are you trying to inspire. And I think at the highest level, it goes back to simplicity matters and authenticity. What you really should be looking for are those moments that inspire people because they're real. People can absolutely understand when things aren't real. You might not realize it, but subconsciously you're doing it. And there's an example of a brand that you will see all over, actually based in San Francisco. See them on billboards everywhere. And what they do is they do photo shoots. They have their models come in, professional photographer comes along, and they take professional photos for their magazines, TV, billboards. And they tried to use these on Instagram, and it was okay, but they just weren't getting some of the response that they saw others doing. And we said, well, others are actually using images from their community and bringing them in. And they said, yeah, but we have these models, we have the time, what do we do? They had seen that people, to inspire creativity, had created another booth, another like modeling booth, right next to the one they had. And they threw a lot of big hats in, glasses, stuff like that. And they just let the models change into whatever they want, be how they really are. And then the photographer just took them, whether it's with a DSLR or with just an iPhone or an Android phone, they took the images like that. That's what they started posting, and they saw immediate results. They saw authenticity. They didn't see someone who was not like them as community members. They saw community members on Instagram, and that really resonated. So just from a curation standpoint, find those people, pull that content into some kind of curation vehicle that you have on your site, and then just choose which ones you think are going to be right. Don't blindly subscribe to a hashtag like My West Elm and just put anything that comes on it and rotate it through your site. People will figure that out and they'll do funny things. So just curate. And the next thing is how to display for impact. So you've got this content. How do you display it? So we have some branding guidelines that say that you should give attribution to the community member, right? And it's important. You're using their content, give attribution back to them. Give attribution to Instagram so people know where to go find that community member. And don't change their image. Remember, it's their story. It needs to be authentic. Don't go alter it. One, it's against the terms. Two, it's a little bit disrespectful, unless you go and actually get permission from the person. But if you're going to alter it, then it begs the question of, like, should you be using that content to begin with? Maybe you should be more specific in your call-outs to people saying, we'd really like to see content like this that does this, this, and this. Show us what you can do. So to make it easy, we have a web embed. And actually, it works on mobile. It's responsive. It's secure from an HTTPS standpoint. And it's actionable. We just actually updated it last year. And it's been doing phenomenal. In fact, we looked at the numbers in January. And there's over 3.7 billion impressions that are coming in from these embeds now every month. And that number's growing. A super easy way to put this content on your site. With just 2 lines of code, you drop it in, and you get the images. You can go to the website, click on the 3 dots in the bottom right corner of any image, grab the code, throw it on your blog, throw it on your website. But sometimes this doesn't always work, and I'll show a little bit of the attribution here. Make sure you put the attribution. People know it's from Instagram. And you can show comments. So it's up to you on whether you want to show a comment. But if you do, it might actually tell the story better. Remember, the Instagram community member put that caption in. Sometimes when you do that, it resonates more. Again, we've seen this in news publishing as being really, really important because it further tells the story of what's there. But sometimes the embed might not be right for what you're trying to do. Maybe you have a different layout that you want. You can actually access all of these images through our CDNs, and you can display them on your site the way that you want to display them. But we ask again, make sure you put the attribution to the community member and attribution to Instagram so that people know that they can click back. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the logo, just be the camera, so they understand they can go back to Instagram, they can find this community member, and they can see what else they're doing. Because remember, people are going to be inspired by this image and by that person. And they're going to want to know, does this person have more? So while it's good for you and your site, it's really good for the community member, and it's a way to give back to them. And again, the attribution's there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like this. If you want, at the bottom, you can just put Instagram.com and put their image name. And you can link it or not link it. We suggest that you link it, but if that doesn't work for you, you don't have to. So I'm going to show a few examples going back to West Elm and what they did. So they actually used this in their product catalog. So this is the flatware set that they have. And what they did is, it's not here, but at the bottom, there's actually images from Instagrammers that they curated using the My West Elm hashtag. and they put them on their site. So if you click on one of them, you will actually see this is a picture from an Instagrammer. And you can see that it says their name, it's got their profile picture, and something about them. But this is awesome. This actually inspires people to take action on the My West Elm site. And you can see what they've done here is they put the products that are being shown here. So the flatware set and the bowls, they put them in the 2 squares right next to it. And this gives people an understanding of, yeah, I was thinking about getting that. What does that look like? The wood table when there's like salad in it or something. These things, though, are super important because people want to visualize what does that look like. That's why we have models, like on dresses, so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. The same thing here. Another example just to show you, here's their product. It's great, right? They're trying to tell a story, but this isn't an Instagrammer's image. This is an Instagrammer's image. This is them showing, I just got this, this is what it looks like. And it's different, whether it's the lighting, but maybe it shows more detail. It's like a product review in many ways. I'm interested in this. What does it look like? What have other people done with it? I don't have to read what it is. I want to visually see what's happening. And again, there's attribution to that community member, a little story about themselves. What I think is really cool is West Elm went a step further, and they actually highlight their photographers of the month who are using the My West Elm hashtag. And this is not a ploy to kind of get more traffic or anything from those members. This is a way to give back, and that's super important. So on these are just images from those photographers. They have nothing to do with West Elm at all. There's no products in any of these. It's just a way to say thank you for letting us use your content. We really want to highlight you. And Instagrammers love it, right? They want to reach out to more people, and you're going to help them because it's just another form of distribution for them. So this is a great way to give back, something to consider. The last example is similar, but this is what Target did last year. So Target created an iPad app, and they used hashtag Target Style. And that was a way to communicate to people, hashtag stuff that you get from Target with Target Style. Show us how you're using it. And what they found from doing this, and it's very similar where they have the community members picture and then they have the item there, they saw a 2 times increase in conversion rates on this when they used Instagram images alongside their products. And they saw a significant portion of their sales come through this app, specifically from the Target Style hashtag catalog. And this is something that they're looking to continue. So how is this done? In these cases, Target, West Elm were helped by what we call a platform accelerator. So we have a program called the Instagram Platform Accelerators Program, the IPA, kind of cool, I don't know. What we do is we look for companies that are helping other companies on board with Instagram. And we have a list now, I think, of about 40 of these apps, of these companies helping people come on board. And it's growing. And what we're really looking for is for companies outside of the US to be helping people in different countries. So if that's what your business is doing, if that's what you're thinking about doing, we would love to hear from you. If you come by the Instagram booth in the other building, let us know that that's what you're doing. And we can give you some tips and guidelines on how to get started and what people are really looking for. But it's amazing. It's growing. Instagram is growing. The community's been growing. And just a lot of the creativity that we're seeing with apps, printing solutions that are out there where you can take stuff. I just saw where you can take your Instagrams and print them on a marshmallow, and it's edible. So I don't know. That's kind of cool. But there's really some great stuff to take that and put it into your house, as well as just apps that are doing it well, and then brands that are using it in great ways, all giving back to the community and all being inspirational. So with that, Q&A. Who's got questions? Anyone? There's a mic going around if you have a question. Yeah. Oh, you want to wait?
Can you please stand? Thank you. Hi. Do you have any examples of businesses that aren't retailers that have been using Instagram successfully?
So I think the Marshmallow Company is one. Nike is another. I know that they're retail, but they're using it for their running app. Most of the companies we're seeing are companies that print out photos. So Walgreens, for example, you can go into their kiosk and now get your Instagrams associated with your Walgreens account and print them all out. There's some companies that are like drone companies that are doing things so that you can beam photos right to your Instagram page directly. So those are a few examples. We're seeing more and more, and to be honest, it's been really hard to figure out like who's doing what. But things just trend really quickly, and when they do, we see a spike, we go take a look, and we're like, oh, that's really cool. And it's actually crossed every vertical. So I talked a lot about the businesses and brands here, just because we're seeing like a big kick from that, but it's happening everywhere.
Hi, can
Hi.
you speak to plans for developing a partner program, something similar to the one that Facebook has right now? You got as an extension of it or a separate program that you run? You listed those companies up there. A more formal partner program that gives us better access to some of the APIs.
Yep. So like you're talking about like what we call the PMD program before, right? Yeah. The marketing developer. Yeah. So we are. I think that this is the beginning of that. So the IPA program is the beginning of that. And with that, we're going to make it more formal. And we know that there's different needs from these companies because the rate limits just might not work when you're trying to accommodate a whole bunch of brands. Also, let's call provisioning accounts, right? You have some campaign that's going, how do you provision accounts without telling that brand to go create them on their phone and then give you access to them? So we are absolutely looking at that. And it's something that I don't think it's going to happen. The new features this year, we'll probably formalize the program this year. And then next year, we'll release some of the functionality specific to people in the program. Yeah.
How would you suggest a nonprofit use Instagram to drive donations?
To do donations? Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think I mean, honestly, it still comes down to what I would call conversions and what can you inspire people when they land on the donations page and they're making that decision on whether they want to donate. It's about seeing other people who've donated or the effects of what those donations do. That's what's really inspirational. And that's actually happening. In fact, I just got an email today from a company that wants help for this specific thing, and I'm actually talking to them tomorrow about what we can do on it. And we've seen this happen before. And when you go on the site, you're still wondering, where is that money going to go? Authentic images that are coming in from the field, whether they did that in the past or it's ongoing, are super powerful. And we've seen rates of donations go up, not only in conversion of it, but also average donation size go up. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans to add sharing capabilities, like regramming and stuff like that, natively?
That's great, regramming. It's come up a lot, and it's something I don't think that we're looking to do. And it's mainly because it's not about seeing the same image over and over and trying to get the distribution within the community. It gets old. What happens is the same followers might see it in the feed multiple times. And because our feed, our news feed, is deterministic, if you're following something, you're going to see it. And it becomes really spammy. And I don't know if you guys have had that experience where someone posts like 4 or 5 pictures in a row, like within a minute, and it just completely takes over your feed. Instagram doesn't become as useful to them. And so it's unfortunately a bad side effect on regramming. We just don't want that to happen because then it's going to take away from the community. If it takes away from the community, it's not good for anyone.
Hi, I'm from the Philippines. I'd just like to know if Instagram is open to working with brands and partners from our part of the world.
I'm sorry, can you say that one again?
Yeah, I'm from the Philippines, and I'd just like to know if Instagram is open to working with brands and partners in our part of the world, in Southeast Asia.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's funny, we're actually still relatively a small team. We're about 250 people now and growing. But we're just starting to expand much more outside of the United States. And I think this is why I was asking for the call to action. If there are companies, future IPAs, that are working outside of the US that can help brands and businesses, for example, in the Philippines, we would love to hear from you. But if you want to reach out, if you're one of those businesses, come by our booth and we'll absolutely help you with whatever you need. Yeah.
Hi. For a property that receives over about 10,000 photos a day, do you recommend crowdsourced moderation versus internal moderation?
So how are you getting those? They're coming into your account?
Yeah, they're just hashtagging our company organically.
And your question is, how do you do what?
Moderate, the scale of
Got it.
tens and thousands of photos a day.
That's a good problem to have, I think, right? Like, that's interesting. I actually haven't encountered that myself. There's a few people over in the dev garage that could probably answer that question a little bit better than I can. I just haven't encountered that, where you get so many that are coming in. Actually, I'll be curious to know like what that hashtag is. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, one more question.
I work for Shareably. We are a content measurement platform, and one of the biggest questions we've had with the brands and publishers we work with is that they put links and call to actions into their Instagram captions, but the links are not clickable.
Yeah.
And they can't direct them to sales, or they can't direct them to the article, they have a pretty picture or video. Are there any plans to make them clickable?
Yeah, this request comes up, and I think before I said that nothing's actually clickable on Instagram. In the caption, actually, that is linkable. And some people have used it to try to drive traffic back to their sites if you're a brand or a business and do conversions. We don't think it's the best use, but we're not stopping it. We are looking at, are there other ways that we can make it more simpler for people to actually reach those businesses if they're interested in something? The problem is, like, how do we actually regulate that? And how do we keep the Instagram experience, which is to be in the moment, look through the feed. It's like you're turning through pages of a magazine, right? You're not clicking on anything. You're just being inspired what's there. And you're so inspired by that brand or whatever that it takes you over to the site. And when it does, you increase the conversion or likelihood that you're going to convert on it. So for right now, we're not taking it away. We have seen people do that, but we are thinking about it. I would like to see it for some of my own stuff, but I also know how it could be abused. So I think it's a fine line. I hope that we do get to a solution. Cool. I think we're out of time. All right. Thanks, everyone. If you have other questions, come by the Dev Garage. We're there all day. And thanks a lot for coming out.